Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Loose Cannons podcast. I'm your host, Sammer, and I'm hanging out with my boy Stank and a special guest in Mark Cook of the Pewter Report. How's it going, guys?
What's up, man? I'm so excited, bro. I'm so excited.
You
Cook
always get starstruck.
Listen, I told Greg Allman last week, as far as media personalities, he's one of my favorites. Mark, I feel like I connect with you because I'm a jackass, and I hope you don't take offense to that. But
no, we're both jackasses.
We're one and the same, cut from the same cloth. Mm-hmm. You're a little bit older than me, but not much. I'm still a 70s baby, 76 as a matter of fact.
He looks like he could be your dad, to be honest.
Whoa. Do I look that old? Is it?
No, I mean you look very related. No, you look very related.
Oh, okay.
Not,
I can
not
okay.
old.
All right.
Yeah,
maybe like a stepdad.
Mark does look kind of like an older Jew, like that. He could be part of my family.
Yeah.
like a Southern Jew.
Are there any such? I've never heard of a Southern Jew. I mean, maybe there are.
I'm a Southern Jew.
Yeah, you're talking to one. He's right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
All my family is Northern. I was born down here, so
wait.
I'm
but you go by the name Stank Bastard. I didn't realize Bastard was Jewish.
Bastard is a Jewish name. People don't realize
it's got a hard D at the end. That's how you differentiate. Yeah, it's got the hard D. At the end.
Well, really, I don't
Weinstein or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's Bastard Steen. I cut off the Steen because it's radio personality.
Makes sense. Yeah, I want to be honest. My name is Mark Cookenstein. Just to be fully.
I thought it was Cookenberg.
Sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to. Depends on what club I'm trying to sneak into.
Mark, I don't know how much you know about our podcast and if you've even listened or watched, but this is the podcast that asks the tough questions. You know, we don't shy away from asking the things that matter to our viewers and Bucs fans. So with that being said, I have to ask you about this theory that's been kind of floating around and has yet to be debunked regarding once Trevor Sikkema left the state of Florida, everything for the Buccaneers has gone perfectly. I mean, all of their problems have gone away. What are your thoughts on that theory?
Well, we tried to get rid of Trevor the year before, but we let him come back for one more year. And we saw what happened, right? I mean, Jameis is gone now, 30 interceptions. Those things would not have happened if Trevor would have left the year before. So there's no question about it that Trevor Sikkema or Sickenstein, as he actually should be known as, but he's ashamed of his Jewish heritage. Actually, you know what? We're already too controversial in this podcast. I'm probably going to get fired. We're going to have people making fun of us. The good news is you are actually really Jewish, so we can joke around.
That's right. Actually, I don't follow any religion. My peoples are Jewish, though.
There you go.
That kind of makes me one of them.
Well, so you're telling us that this whole thing with Trevor is fact. It's no longer a theory because you know him more than
100% true. I mean, the guy was just bad juju. I mean, let's face it. Before Trevor,
now he takes Carolina.
Team goes 9-7. Actually, that's not true. I think his first year here, they were 9-7. So we can't really pin it all on Trevor. That would be too easy. Let's blame it on the true blame. The organization itself, has done some stupid things over the last 12 years, however long they've been in the playoffs. But if you're talking about all that's going on wrong with the world too, I still blame Trevor for that as well. I mean, look, he's a millennial. We're going to blame him for everything.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We haven't really talked to you since the whole, Tom Brady and Gronkowski and the draft and all the stuff that's happened. And you've covered this team a lot longer than we have. Do you remember an offseason? I asked Greg Allman the same question. Do you remember any offseason that even compares to the craziness and the hype and the excitement that surrounds the Bucs right now?
Not even close. I mean, I wasn't officially covering the team when they traded for John Gruden, but it was pretty close. I mean, if you want to find something that kind of feels that way. I mean, as an old guy, I started watching this team when I was 7 in 1977. I remember them going to the playoffs, that in 79 and then again in 81 and 82. Then the down years after they let Doug go and they drafted Bo Jackson and everybody thought that was going to be the turnaround. And of course we know what Bo did. That's okay because 2 years later they draft Vinny Testaverde and he's going to be the savior. And there was some hype there. And then it was just nothing for a long time. And, I'll be honest with you, let's go all the way back to 96 when Spurrier turned him down and Jimmy Johnson turned him down. I was depressed as anybody. I was like, who in the hell is Tony Dungy? Oh, great. We settled for the third candidate. Well, obviously that turned out to be the smartest move that Malcolm Glazer made, besides buying the team for $192 million, and it's now worth almost $1 billion. So that was a very smart move. But the second smartest move he ever made was certainly hiring Tony Dungy. But even then, I mean, there was no hype before that. In fact, it was the air let out of the balloon when Spurrier and Jimmy Johnson turned this team down. So then you go to, Dungy leading the playoffs, they're doing well. Maybe the season after they lost to the Rams, but again, the star power, right? We can look back now and see that Derrick Brooks was a superstar and that Warren Sapp was a superstar and Rondé Barber and Keyshawn and some of those guys were star players. But you're talking about two of the biggest players in the league in the last 20 years and arguably the greatest quarterback that's ever played in this league, now a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so, I mean, I can't think of anything. I mean, Gruden was the biggest hype prior to this move, but it dwarfs in comparison to me than the Buccaneers signing him. But in Buccaneers fashion, we've not been able to really enjoy any of it. And we don't know what we're going to be able to enjoy in the fall. If there is a football season, which I think there's going to be some type of football season, we don't know if it's going to be 16 games. We don't know if there's going to be anybody in the stands. It's a Bucs life, right? I mean, isn't that what people say? I mean, they finally get everything going and it appears to be in the right direction and something like this happens. I hope that it gets straightened out and we're able to have a normal football season, but I certainly wouldn't bet my house on it by any stretch. But yeah, just to answer your question after a long-winded response, nothing like the Tom Brady move. And the Gronkowski was just icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm nervous. Things like this typically don't work out well in the real world. I mean, on paper, it sounds great.
Sure.
We've got lots of off-season championships here in Tampa. More than the Patriots have real championships. And a lot has to go right from here on for us to be able to actually see the success everybody's speculating we're going to have. And like you said or alluded to, are we going to have the time to build that chemistry that it takes to play championship football in a division where, we've got probably one of the best teams in football in New Orleans. Everybody's, in my opinion, sleeping on Atlanta. They had a lot of injuries last year. They had a Todd Gurley. If he comes back even halfway healthy, they're dangerous. They can score points. It's going to be a tough road, even if we are hitting on all cylinders. So I guess it's going to be a wait and see thing. It's been exciting though.
I'm with you too, man. I am cynical, and the reason I'm cynical is because, I've seen this team. I remember after '79 when they went to the NFC Championship game, lost to the Rams. They were supposed to go to the Super Bowl the next year, right? They ended up 5-10-1 that next year and missed the playoffs completely. The team just collapsed, and they had a lot of injuries and a lot of issues. I remember, again, as I mentioned earlier, Vinny Testaverde was supposed to be the savior. I remember there was a year, I'm getting old here, but there was one year during Dungy's reign when the team, I don't think they even made the playoffs. I think they finished 8-8 or 9-7 in a year that people thought they would be Super Bowl contenders. Now, and then we saw them get to the playoffs and the Eagles kick their ass. So until they finally got there. And so I've seen, the Hard Knocks year, we can all go back and talk about that. I mean, that was a year coming off a 9-7 season that we all expected the Buccaneers to win the division, and they just collapsed and crumbled. So, I'm with you to a degree, man, that it's, I want to take a wait and see approach, but damn, it feels good though to go into an off season this way. And even in that Hard Knocks year, I still didn't feel as good about it as I do this year. And part of that is because, and I think this gets lost in it because everybody's talking about Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, but man, keeping Todd Bowles and this defensive staff together, Byron is going to be a better offense coordinator in year 2 than he was year 1, and having Bruce Arians at the helm, this coaching staff is one of the best in the league. And I know Bruce there were plenty of things we criticized him for last year. I don't give a shit what he says, excuse my language, but you don't back up your kicker 5 yards in that Giants game. I mean, that was just stupid. It was just dumb, but he got his feet back under him to a degree. The main thing is while some of his coaching decisions can be questioned, I've talked to these players and I've talked to them here in the offseason off the record. They believe in this guy. They really, really respect Bruce Arians because he's a no-nonsense guy. He's not a guy that tells you one thing and then goes and tells the media another thing. And he's just very straightforward. And he's got a resume, guys. As much as I thought Dirk Cutter was a very good, innovative offensive mind, Dirk Cutter has no rings on his fingers, right? Bruce Arians has a track record working with Ben Roethlisberger where he wins a Super Bowl, where he goes to Indianapolis, and then what he does in Arizona with a woeful franchise in the Cardinals. Well, I say that. They had been to the Super Bowl a few years prior with Ken Wisenhunt, I think was his name. I can't remember.
Yeah,
maybe my years are all mixed up. But, again, a franchise that was as bad as the Bucs for a long, long time. And, he was able to do, great things with them. And you don't win Coach of the Year 2 years with 2 different teams by accident. He's a damn good football coach, and these players respect him. So while I'm excited about things, I'm cynical, but then I start thinking about this coaching staff, and I see that that gives me a little bit more hope that it's not going to be a down, disappointing year like we've seen following this team for the last 40 years.
It's pretty sad, though, like when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that an offseason like this, I mean, it feels like it doesn't probably happen to this, this scale for other teams, but I feel like other teams get somewhat of a taste of this with like an exciting offseason move, an exciting, trade, things of that nature. But the Bucs, like, we don't get this. Like, this doesn't happen. If we have a superstar, it's because we just fucking stumbled into him. He just fell into our laps, like, a guy like Mike Evans, or, if you think back even to like Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp. I mean, how do you draft those 2 guys in the same year and then they're in the Hall of Fame? So having something like the Tom Brady thing and the grind, like all of that is just like, wow, I can't believe it. And it's kind of depressing at the same time.
Well, think about
and then you don't know. What if it doesn't fucking work out?
Think about this, Sammer. Not only do the Buccaneers not get these star players, this is beyond star player. Yeah. This is Tom freaking Brady, right? This is the guy who is on the level of a LeBron James, of a Tiger Woods, of a guy who my grandmother, who's 92, knows who Tom Brady is. Now, she doesn't know anything about it, but she knows that name. He is an iconic figure in America, not just in sports, in this country. And so it's not just that they signed traded for Darrelle Revis, which was kind of a big deal, right?
Terrible trade.
I mean, in hindsight, it didn't hurt. It didn't help him or hurt him. It is what it was. That was a bad year for draft picks, by the way. That was one of the worst draft years forever. So it didn't hurt me to give up that number 1 that year as much. But for what it doesn't even matter. The point is as good as Darrelle Revis was, he's a cornerback, and the greatest cornerback in the world, in my opinion, Deion Sanders, is still a cornerback. We're talking about Tom Brady. We're talking about the position in football. You're talking about a guy who has more rings and more Super Bowl appearances than anybody. You look at Drew Brees. He's been to the Super Bowl how many times, guys? Once.
Yeah, once.
He's got 1 Super Bowl ring.
Guess who got 1? I thought. Yeah.
Guess who else has 1 Super Bowl ring? Trent Dilfer. Again, that's not saying that Drew Brees and Trent Dilfer are the same. It's not easy to win multiple Super Bowls. It's not easy.
Tom's been to 9.
And he's won 6 of them. And he could
have won 8.
Yeah, absolutely. So
could have won 8.
It's a situation where this isn't just the Buccaneers getting this star player. Now, again, he's also not – I mean, he's on the downhill, right? I don't know. Hopefully he's still here and not crashing down. He's not the Tom Brady that he was 10 years ago. Mm-mm. Buccaneers don't need the Tom Brady of 10 years ago. A Tom Brady who is last year's Tom Brady or the year before's Tom Brady. This football team wins a lot of football games and I think is a serious contender for a Super Bowl. But as we talked about, and as you guys even mentioned, a lot of things can still go wrong. I mean, 1 injury, 2 injuries here or there, and you're screwed. Super Bowl winners are not always just the most talented team. They're usually the luckiest team, the team that doesn't get hit with the injury bug at the most important positions. Anyway, so there's my
or they simply have a surprise depth piece that comes through. Like I remember the Green Bay Packers when they won with Aaron Rodgers, their secondary was decimated, but for some reason, every guy that they slid in back there just figured it out just enough to win games. And like, wow, that's some serious depth. And all those guys were draft pieces or like practice squad guys that were in late rounds. Right. So that kind of like luck does definitely, that has to happen and fall into your lap in a sense. But with this the whole Tom Brady thing, did you actually think it was going to happen? Like, or did you guys, like you personally, do you think it was going to happen way sooner than anyone else even thought it would happen?
No, I mean, you don't. And again, as a media guy, you don't like to use the word "get your hopes up." But let me be honest with you: every single person in that meeting room, I don't care how professional they want to say, they were hoping Tom Brady would come here. And I say that because it's going to make our job more interesting. I mean, fans get to cheer for the greatest quarterback of all time. We get to interact with this guy on a daily basis. Yeah. I mean, that's huge for us. That's huge for our numbers. I mean, we're in a business that we still have to pay our bills or survive. And we need readers and listeners and things like that to be able to do that. So
who do you work for again?
Pewterreport.com.
Not to be confused.
Yeah, not to be confused.
How do you spell Pewter?
Yeah, it's Pooter, Pewterreport.com. We actually had somebody do a fake Pewter Report account on Twitter, used our logo and everything, and called it Pewter Report. So screw those guys, but we had them shut down.
That was actually Sammer. Yeah, it was.
I have a feeling it was Joe Bucks fan, but
Cook, you mentioned a name that
bombs on my fucking podcast.
I know, right? You mentioned a name, and it's a name that I didn't leave the end of the season a big fan of, and that's Byron Leftwich. Now you get to interact with the guy. I wasn't overly impressed with what the play calling looked like. Now, play calling and what the quarterback actually does with the play call, and his read progressions. We don't really know, how the game is called. We just see the end product. Right. But I mean, is Leftwich really going to be the offensive coordinator here, or does Tom Brady immediately become that offensive coordinator? The guy in the meeting room who's putting the game plan together, the guy who's on the field who's audibling out of plays and getting these guys in position. Because if you watch Patriots football, man, they looked like geniuses a lot of times. Mm-hmm. They called good games, but was it Brady back there pulling the puppet strings and getting them into those calls that could beat defenses when I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying, and that's something we've thought about a lot. And I don't know the answer to that yet. We just don't know. I think the Buccaneers would be foolish not to allow Tom Brady to have a major input on their game plan. Now, Tom also is a guy that's limited in the amount of time he's got. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got to learn the players around him. He has to actually practice the plays. I don't know how much time Tom Brady's going to have. He's not going to be there till 9 o'clock at night like Byron is, putting together a game plan the week before a game. But they would be foolish. And I think Byron even mentioned that at some point that, he's just going to try not to get in the way to a degree. And when you've got a quarterback like Tom Brady who is going to be a coach on the field, it's only going to help. Now, I was one of those guys, particularly, early in the year, that thought Byron really struggled. But I think he really got his legs underneath him as the season went on. And, I mean, when you still put up the offensive numbers this team did with a quarterback who threw 30 interceptions, man, I'm a big Jameis fan. You guys know that. I'm a Florida State guy. Love Jameis Winston as a person. Love him on the field, minus the 30 interceptions. But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, this was the most prolific offense this franchise has had. And we can't say it was in spite of Byron Leftwich. I don't think that's fair. I think we have to give him some proper credit there because he is the guy that was making the calls. And, I wondered how much that Bruce was interfering. I don't want to use the word interfering or giving input. This was Byron Leftwich using Bruce Arians' playbook, but he was the guy making 90% of those calls on game day. He'll still be that guy making 90% of those calls, but there's no question this team will utilize what Tom likes to do, what he doesn't like to do, and build that game plan around that. And I think that's a smart thing for them to do. Again, you're not talking about a rookie quarterback. You're talking about a 20-year veteran that has to use both hands to put all his rings on. So you'd be a fool. I don't care what kind of ego you have if you're Bruce Arians or Byron Leftwich. You'd be a fool not to let Tom Brady certainly have some input in this offense.
Now, you've interacted a little bit more, obviously, than us. I mean, we haven't interacted at all with him. But
just a little bit more.
Yeah, you've interacted
just a teeny bit
more than any other outside media member in regards to like sports, obviously, with Byron. Does Byron strike you as a flexible type of guy in the sense of – because when you saw what Tom and McDaniels kind of had relationship-wise – they would butt heads, but it was one of those things where it was a very respectful relationship, and you could see that Tom still learned from McDaniels because McDaniels had such a great offensive mind, and he would also learn from Tom, vice versa, all of that. And in Byron, like I'm really intrigued to see how this plays out because I don't put Byron on the same level as a Josh McDaniels. I just don't. And it's not a knock on him. He's not there yet. He's not a Sean Payton type of guy.
He doesn't have the experience that those guys have.
Yeah.
So
how does that relationship function? Is it going to be where Byron kind of allows it to be more, let Tom take the lead and kind of learn and flex with him, or is it going to be one of those things where eventually Tom becomes frustrated that he's dealing with a guy who, you could honestly say Tom might know more than Byron at this point.
He might.
No, but and he probably does. But no, Byron Leftwich is not that kind of. Byron Leftwich wants to win. He wants to move the ball. He wants to put points on the board. If a shaman showed up at one Buccaneer place and said, "Here's a game plan that's going to work," Byron Leftwich would look at it, right? I mean, he's that kind of guy. He's not an ego guy at all. Had plenty of conversations with Byron, on and off the record, and he's not an egomaniac kind of offensive coordinator guy. He's not going to be that guy. Will there be times that those two guys butt heads a little bit? Go ahead. I'm sure. I mean, that's only natural. I mean, look at Jimbo Fisher and Jameis Winston. I think that's a good thing from time to time when two guys can challenge each other. But Byron is not an egomaniac. He's not going to be like it's my way or the highway to Tom Brady. Just not going to happen. Tom's earned that respect. He's earned that right. And Byron is all about winning football games. I really, really like Byron a lot as a person, and he does this for the right reason. He's not a guy who's, look at me and what I did. It's about the team. So I feel 100% comfortable in saying that about Byron.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, you as a media member are going to be able to kind of take place, be there for some historical things. I mean, Tom's filming a documentary. You might show up on television. You're going to be, international media superstar Mark Cook in the background asking Tom Brady questions.
Probably.
Have you thought about what this is going to do for your career? Screw Tom Brady, screw the Bucs, screw the Super Bowl rings. Are you planning on taking this and making your star rise?
This is your moment, Mark.
I'm certainly looking to parlay this into any opportunities in Hollywood available. I mean, let's face it, Chris Farley is dead, and we have not had a replacement for Chris Farley since the mid-'90s. Good point.
You better start eating, though. You're trying to be the next Chris Farley.
Do you want me to stand up? Because I'm not far away.
Actually, dude, please stand up and take your shirt off.
This COVID is Let's do
it, baby.
Yeah, so I look okay. I'm not going to lift the shirt, but I'm not far off. But I could right now go to SNL and be part 2 of the Chippendales thing with Patrick Swayze, rest in peace. I'm definitely got the Farley bod going on. So there's no doubt I'm totally going to utilize this year not to be the best writer I can be, but to figure out how I can help me. And because at the end of the day, it's all about Mark Cook. I think
you write? I didn't even know you wrote.
Occasionally.
Where do you write at again?
It's Job. No, it's the Athletic. No, St. Pete Time. Who do I write for again?
Cast? Something Cast?
Yeah, no, not Cast, not Plank, not Nation. No, none of those things. No, it's pewterreport.com.
Sam, I think we should.
Pewter Report.
We need to get Pewter in the name of our podcast somehow.
Okay.
The Pewter Loose Cannons.
The loose pewter cannons.
The loose pewter cannons. I like
pewter
that.
Cannons.
Yeah.
LPC. We'll call it the LPC.
Right.
Snoop Dogg will be one of our guests next year.
Are you guys making any money on this podcast? That's what I want to know.
Sam, look at dude, you see Sammer's office? You're making money.
Are you selling this podcast, guys?
Well, honestly, it's fully sponsored by Matt Gay, so we don't really kind of don't interfere with all that. Greatest kicker the NFL has ever seen. So
I'm not a Matt Gay fan.
You're on the wrong podcast, buddy.
Wait, can you show him our sponsorship with Matt Gay? No, he doesn't see it.
I see that. No,
hold it up to the camera.
I joke about Matt. Matt's a good dude. He was one of my first guests on my ever popular show that no one's ever seen called What's Cooking. But he was one of my guests. There's my man.
I'll watch it.
All right. 2 people watch. Good.
2 people.
So, and, my parents don't even watch. I hardly watch. It's so bad. But that's why it's so good, in my opinion, because it's so awful. People. It's funny, though. People are like, it's you should really try and be more professional, or you should probably try and have better graphics. I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's the point of it, right?
That's the point.
That's the point. I don't.
Thank you.
It's like Zach Galifianakis with the Fern, that same show.
Exactly. If you don't think I've totally stolen things from Zach Galifianakis. The episode where I had Tanner Hudson standing behind Cam Brate 2 years ago, totally took that from Zach. I mean, I don't mind stealing stuff, and I'll admit that I steal it. But no, that's the whole point.
Is that a fern over your right shoulder? I think it might be.
That's actually a green fern.
Oh, I thought it was a fern. Okay. I thought you were a one fern.
I don't know why I have the Golden Gate Bridge behind me, to be honest with you. I always like to have, when we do our podcast or when we were doing our live video draft cast, have, silly pictures behind me and things like that. Gary Busey or Gilligan's Island or BJ and the Bear or something, crazy. And I thought about it tonight. And anyway, I didn't get a good one put up. And so I defaulted to this. And I realized it once we started the podcast that I've never even been to San Francisco, just to be honest with you guys. So I don't know.
I thought you were just a big Rice-A-Roni fan.
The San Francisco treat. And you'll remember this thing because you're a 70s guy. Man, Rice-A-Roni, every single game show in the 70s, that was a consolation prize. A year's supply of turtle wax and Rice-A-Roni. But you're not going home empty-handed. You're going home. Remember that? There's a blast from the past.
Mark, I could completely see you hosting a game show.
That's my dream job. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Gene Deckerhoff has my dream job. The voice of the Knowles and the Buccaneers. I would love to do that. I've done some play-by-play in the past. Certainly not at that level. If people always ask me, what is your dream job? Besides, adult film star, that's number 1. Then Gene Deckerhoff's job. Then number 3, absolutely, a game show host. That would be the greatest job in the world.
Would you have the long mic?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
you got to go with the long mic.
Like Gene Rayburn from Match Game 77. Absolutely.
So why not parlay this career that you're – obviously, Brady, Cook, the names are going to be synonymous. Parlay that into you hosting a game show, a Bucs-related game show on YouTube where you have Bucs fans come on.
I would love to do that, except we need a budget for that. Everybody's always saying, do this, do that. I'm like, it takes money, man. Even these podcasts aren't, you got to have money to do them right and buy equipment and things like that. So I agree. What I do want your listeners to do, though, is we want to start some sort of hashtag or campaign on Twitter that we want Gronkowski for an episode of What's Cooking this year. I mean, I would love Brady, but I think he's probably too big for us. But doesn't Gronk seem like he would be the perfect guy that would love to do something as dumb as What's Cooking? So what we need to do is get all of your listeners to I will send out a link to my Cam Brate episode. That's been my favorite the last 2 years, both of them with Cam. We want to send that, and then we want people to send that to Gronkowski and make sure so he knows about it. So when I finally get a chance to talk to him about it, he's going to agree to do it. That would be a big get. If I tried Jameis for 2 years. Jameis was like, nope, I ain't doing it. He made a couple guest appearances in the hallway, but he would not do it. So my goal is to get Rob Gronkowski on as a guest. So I'm going to need your listeners to help me out on that. I'll figure out some sort of strategy, and I'll send it to you guys. Maybe you guys could retweet it out, and we could get Rob involved.
Why don't you want Matt on there?
Matt Gay? I already had him on.
I mean, you're talking about the game show, I thought. Oh, you're talking about What's Cooking still.
Yeah, I want to get on What's Cooking. No, on a game show, anybody.
Mark's got the thickest player on the team, Matt Gay. It's Vita Vea, then Matt Gay in that order.
My big gay kicker. That's my
when I see them come out of the shower, I have to look at the hair to figure out which is who. Yes.
Have you ever looked at Vita Vea's calves?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
up close and rub and
no,
one. Yeah.
I mean, I have, as being a country boy, I've dove on him and tried to tie him, because I'm a rodeo guy. So he's got some big old calves. He's a man. He's a man amongst boys. Nicest guy in the world too.
That guy is like a moon. He's got gravity to him. He's so damn big.
Yeah. Now I have not had him on What's Cooking. I've talked to him a little bit. I love Vita Vea, but I always try and look at the personality of guys. I think Vita Vea would be like, what in the hell am I doing on this show? You know what I mean? I don't know that he would get it. And we want guys that get it. Like Cam Brate, he got what the show was about. Matt Gay got what the show was about. Tanner Hudson.
I mean, of course, Matt Gay got it, yeah.
But now, Shaq Barrett was on last year. I got Chris Godwin. I had a couple big names on the show. And I don't know that they got it, but they tolerated it. I could see Vita Vea be able to just shaking his head and walking out at some point. So, which would
seems quiet. He seems quieter. He seems quieter than the other guys on the team.
It's tough when you have a quiet guy on a show like that. You want him to be animated. I mean, look, one of the greatest guests in the world was Alan Cross. I mean, Honcho was great. He was
your son, of course.
My grandson.
He's Stank's brother. Stank's brother.
No. Yeah.
Speaking of fathers and sons, you do this thing on Petercast. I think you guys just started it recently. The Bucs Flashback Friday. Peter Report. My bad. Peter Report. We were saying cast so often.
Now, see you later.
No, you do it on PeterReport.com. You do the Bucs Flashback Friday, and you recently did one about a father-son football game, and it's a really cool. The whole idea behind these pieces, I think it's cool because I grew up being a fan. I didn't become a fan until it was like 96. So Dungy's first year. I didn't really experience anything with the creamsicle or, all that old school 70s football.
Oh, I know. Because when I suggested the creamsicles for the new uniforms, you hammered me pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. So
hater.
I like those articles because you kind of, take people back. Now, with it being a father and son one was your recent one. Have you had a true father-son like Buccaneer moment with your kids that you just put it right at the top of the list? As you talk about a lot of it with you and your father.
Yeah, maybe. Well, here's the thing I was most proud of. First of all, my son's adopted. We adopted him out of foster care when he was 3. And look, everybody before they have kids, you want your son to be like you. I mean, I dreamed of having a son that loved to fish, that loved to surf, that loved to love football, love Florida State football, love Buccaneer football, sports in general. And man, God could not have given me a better kid. Let's just face it. I mean, he was perfect from the moment he got there. My one of my uncles brought him over when we first got him, because you don't have a baby shower when you adopt a kid, or not when they're 3 anyway, because they're not babies. So what do we need with a bunch of diapers? But anyway, my uncle brought over some gifts for my son not long after we adopted him, and it was football, a basketball, a soccer ball kind of thing, and he immediately took to it. Now, fishing was something that within a week of adopting him, we were on the boat fishing, so he was hooked early on that. But I've been very blessed and fortunate that he loves football. He does not love the Buccaneers as much as Florida State, right? And part of that is because Buccaneers have just been bad. If you go 12 years between playoff appearances, and my son's 19, I mean, that's a generation lost almost, right?
Yep.
So, but Florida State, was perfect in 2013 when he's 13 and he's playing youth football, that we did have that championship moment. I mean, I will never, ever forget it. And I remember bringing it up to Jameis that, that I know it was important for him to win a championship and the Heisman and all, but I wanted him to understand the impact of what that did to so many people. But, as a Florida State guy, I saw a championship in 93, saw a championship after the 99 season. But the first one to be able to share with my son and him understand the importance of what it meant. And I will never, ever forget when Jameis threw that pass and Kelvin Benjamin went up for it. And it came down, and it seemed like it took 2 minutes for the officials to raise his hand for a touchdown. But when he did, now me and my son were both standing in the living room watching that final drive, not talking, just watching. But I'll never forget, we didn't yell and scream. We just hugged. And we just hugged for, I don't know, for a couple minutes. And that is, to me, the greatest sports moment I've had with my son. I hope one day, and he does love the Buccaneers, I could pull up a picture right now of him being 4 years old, with a Cadillac Williams jersey. I don't know where it came from. He has number 24 jersey on. I've got pictures of him with Rondé Barber and Josh Freeman, because I've been very fortunate in my job to be able to bring him out to training camps and things like that. And he's so spoiled, he doesn't even understand what he gets. Things that I would have given my left leg for as a kid, he gets in, and I think he doesn't appreciate it nearly as much. But that was my big father and son moment with him. I hope in the future that, I wish he would have been around in 2002 when the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. My dad came over to my house that night. I remember he and I watching that game, and me and him spent a lot of Sunday. My dad never wanted to ever admit he was a Buccaneers fan, right? He was an old Florida boy, so it was all about the Dolphins, and he wasn't a big fan of the Orange and the Buccaneers, and he called them the Keystone Cops, and 0-26 will make people jaded. But secretly, my dad deep down is a big Buccaneer fan. We went to the first playoff game under Dungy in '97 when they played the Lions, last game of Houlihan Stadium. We went to that game together, and I've shared a lot of games. I always bring him to at least one game a year to sit up in our Pewter Report suite. I have to be in the media room, but him and my son get to go to a game every year. But I do hope that me and my son will have that Buccaneer moment. I think we will at some point if I live long enough.
That was beautiful.
Stank, do you want to take this moment to thank him?
Thank Mark?
Your dad.
Mark. Oh, my dad. Yeah, my dad's the one who introduced me to Bucs games. But
you totally missed that. You totally missed what I was talking about.
Listen, because I was genuinely touched by his story, motherfucker. I was listening to everything he said, and I was
was I.
No,
but I was looking at you, and I was like, I think his son disagrees. I was going to give you the floor and be like, is that also your favorite sports moment with Dad?
Listen, my daughter, who's 14, hates the Bucs. And I don't really have any good sports moments with her with the Buccaneers. Right. Even though when she was in my balls and I was living in Gainesville and we won the national championship against Florida State, 52-20. That was a special moment that I'll share with her through the cosmos.
I don't recall that ever happening. I mean,
it was a long time ago.
First of all, that would have never happened in today's college football for the two teams. I mean, Florida State beat you guys in a miraculous game.
Yeah, we lost to them that season. And then
we had to rematch in the next bowl game. That would never, ever happen.
I don't think that would happen.
It wouldn't happen, but it did. So,
my oldest is 6, right? And he'll sit next to me, and he'll watch, the games when I'm watching the away games. And it's always at the end of the day, he's like, Dad, why are you a Bucs fan? I'm like, I love the Bucs. He's like, but Dad, they always lose. I'm like, I don't know what to say to the kid anymore,
Scott Reynolds has been covering this team he's going into his 25th season. Scott Reynolds has never had a job other than covering Buccaneer football. He got out of college, graduated at Kansas State. 2 weeks later, he's in Tampa, working for the old Buccaneer Heaven merchandise shop and Buccaneer magazine. And this is all he's ever known. His son Logan is a Ravens fan. When the Ravens played the Bucs a few years ago, when Flacco had that first half where he couldn't throw an incompletion, before the game, Scott gets his son down with a field pass, and he's getting gloves signed by Jacoby Jones and Joe Flacco. He didn't care about the Buccaneers, and he still doesn't. Look, the Buccaneers, but they have nobody to blame but themselves. So they've got to win.
Lost generation of Bucs fans.
They lost a generation from 83 to 97. And they're going to lose. They're not quite as long of a losing streak or a non-playoff streak. But they're not far off from that again. This could be the thing that turns it back around, though, because I remember the old days at the old Buccaneer Tampa Stadium. I never bought tickets ahead of time. I would buy a ticket, and I was kind of what I love to do is I would try and buy like a $30 ticket for $5 and then sell it for $10. Then I would buy a $25 ticket for $6 and sell it for $8. I would do that until I made enough that I could get in for free and have enough money to hopefully not have them card me for a beer. That's true. You would
have been a hell of a drug dealer.
Well, I would like to call myself a ticket broker. All right. But I still
see. I used to buy $10 of weed and then I would sell. Okay, keep on going. Sorry.
Well, even as long as you sampled a little bit, but
exactly, I had to sample it to see what the quality was.
You don't want to sell any bad stuff. I get that. No, exactly. I would always expect my dealer to sample the merchandise, but yeah, I sampled a lot of bad Bucs football games, unfortunately, and I wish I was high at those games a lot of times.
Segue king, Sammer, did you hear that? The segue?
That? That's so much better than I am.
But I sampled a bunch of bad Buccaneer games. It was like this guy's like a professional.
That was so smooth.
Seamless.
So smooth.
But sitting on those aluminum bleachers baking in that stadium to watch some awful football. But man, it's just when you become a fan of something, it just gets in your blood and it's hard not to be. Now, I'll be honest with you. It was difficult in 2011 when Scott hired me full time because he said, guess what? Fan hat gets put off. And he's right. All right. We want the team. There are plenty of fan sites out there. We are journalists. We have to be fair. And we criticize this organization on a regular basis. Scott Reynolds called for Lovie Smith to be fired after that Washington game that year. I mean, we're not afraid to call out whoever it may be. As big a fan as Jameis Winston as I am, there are people in his family and his group that can't stand me right now because I was critical of him at 30 interceptions. But I think I have to be, right? I mean, if I'm going to do my job.
So it was deserved.
And I think that's why I love my Saturdays because I can be the jerk, over-emotional fan cursing out 19-year-old kids on Twitter, right? Because that's what college football fans do.
Yeah.
You know, how can you idiot, how can you do that? You know, and the kid's a 19-year-old kid, probably still hungover from the night before. But bottom line is, you know, that's what I love my Saturdays for because I can be that jerk. I have to be fairly calm. Now, listen, when I'm up in that media, I'm up in the press box, you know, it makes my job easier when they win. It's a much happier locker room to walk into and interview players. It makes the following week much better when they win. So I still want them to win. I just can't, you know, I can't wear the pewter and red. I've got to be fair. And I think I have been, I really do. I think I've been, you know, I think I've been able to do that, to separate the fandom. And really, I'll be honest with you. When you start covering a team full time, you don't really have time when the game is over to be mad or happy because you just have so much to do. So that helps, you know, me if I maybe have any little bias come in. I mean, it's a job, and no matter how great a job, like I would never ever want to cover Florida State football because I would have to lose my enjoyment of the game. I can't watch a Buccaneer football game as a fan because I'm either in the press box or in a road, you know, on the road at a stadium, or I'm sitting at home with this computer I'm talking to burning on my legs. You know what I mean? So it's work. You know, no matter how great a job is, every job eventually becomes work. With that said, I still have the greatest job in the world. I'm blessed. You know, I've dug ditches. I've worked in the phosphate mines. I've worked at Taco Bell. I mean, I've had every job you can name. And if somebody would have told me that I was going to be 49 years old going on my 9th season covering the Buccaneers when I was a kid, I would have said, sign me up right now. So, and I would have never believed it. And so, and I'll be honest with you, there are times now where I still hope nobody comes up behind me and pinches me and says, hey, wake up, Plant City boy or Keysville boy. You know, you need to go back out and work at the phosphate mines again. You know what I mean? This isn't you. But I've been blessed. And when I start, and my girlfriend tells me all the time, when I start with my nonsense about like, oh God, I got to go to the game today. I got to go to the stadium. She's like, just shut up. Just shut up and think about what you do for a living. And she puts me back in check because she's absolutely right. There's a lot of people listening right now that would love, they would give anything to be able to do what I do for a living. So I thank the Lord, literally thank the Lord. I pray every night. And that's one of the things I thank God for is the opportunity to do something that I enjoy doing.
I don't mind having a journalist that has some bias. As a matter of fact, to me, it just rings hollow when you have a guy, you know, not to throw, you know, him under the bus, but a guy like Tom Bassinger who clearly hates this football team and the fan base, but has to write about it. Is forced to write about it for a living. And it's awful. It's awful. I would much prefer a fan like you who tries to keep some journalistic integrity. Not that you don't. I'm saying, you know, who does know, okay, I have this hat and I have to wear a different hat when I'm covering the team. But I prefer to have somebody who loves the team like I do, because your articles, your interviews, your shows, you can feel it. and I want to feel that. And in most other journalism and political journalism, and the bias is there. It's so much that you don't know what's truth and what's not,
right?
Because it's
everybody seems to have an agenda in news these days. And I will say this: I will stick up for the Tom Jones of the world, the Rick Strouds. They get hammered a lot. I work with these guys every day. I know how hard they work. They don't hate the Buccaneers. I'm not going to get into the Bassinger thing. I'll say Bassinger, he's a very good writer, journalist, very good analytical guy. But I think he doesn't care if he connects with his readers or his fans. That's okay. I'm not going to begrudge him for that. He has a place at the table. If it's the villain, he might enjoy playing that villain role. I don't really want to be the villain. But that's Tom's thing. But I will stick up and again, I don't work with Tom every day. He's not there every day. But a guy like Rick Stroud, who catches a lot of crap from people all the time, I think is just not fair. Look, he writes, his opinion goes into a story sometimes, and he clearly felt that Jameis Winston wasn't going to be the guy that could lead him to the promised land. And that's fair, his opinion. I still felt that Jameis maybe could do that. I would have liked to have seen a second year under Bruce Arians. Tom Brady, though, I mean, we all have to just accept, Tom Brady's the guy right now. And this team is going to be better off with Tom Brady in the short term. I don't know about the long term, but in the short term, better with Tom Brady. But I do try and stick up for it. I think Scott does an even better job than I do of writing the facts, interjecting his opinion from time to time when it's called for, depending on what type of article that he's writing. But Scott does a terrific job. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boss, because he's not even going to listen to this. He barely listens to our own podcast when he's not on, so I know he's definitely not going to listen to this one. But Scott,
definitely not.
Scott's a really good writer. Greg Allman, Rick Stroud, those guys are all really good writers. Ira Kaufman, love that guy. And we were talking before we started. Really, to be honest with you, in that media room, 99% of those guys get along really well and really respect each other. We all just have different styles, and that's okay. I don't want everybody to be the same. You know what I mean? I literally, this is true, and you can ask Megan. She's sitting right here. I will watch 15 minutes of CNN, 15 minutes of Fox News, 15 minutes MSNBC. Now, I want to rip my hair out after 45 minutes because I'm thinking to myself, where's the Walter Cronkites? Where's the guy who just gives me the news without a slant? I don't like a lot of slant. But at the same time, when I read Florida State websites, I love Tomahawk Nation because you can tell they love Florida State Seminole football. You know what I mean? But when they got to criticize, they criticize. So Scott stays on me pretty regular to stay very neutral and made it clear at the beginning when I started, can you handle this? Can you put your allegiance to the side and be fair? And I think I have been. And again, when I have players who call me out on social media and call me an asshole or whatever, like Donald Penn did a few years ago, I mean, that tells me that I'm doing something right? I'm not just a fanboy that happens to be writing for a team that I'm a fan of. When it's time to be critical, I'm critical. And people can go listen to those podcasts, especially those game day podcasts that we did last year, when I had major issues with the way the team played, from the coaching down to Jameis Winston to the secondary. I'm not afraid to call them out. I think I've been fair. And if I'm not, I want people to hold me accountable to it. I really do, because that is my job, is to present the news in as fair without as much bias as possible. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to see this team succeed. And I'll tell you another thing as we're rambling on before you want to cut me off. Look, we want the team to succeed, and Scott will tell you this too, because we're not friends with these players, but we see the work that they put in because we watch practice every day. We get the first 30 minutes of practice every day. We're there for every OTA, every training camp practice. We see these guys after practice being helped in. We've seen Mike Evans fall down where his entire body is cramping. You can literally watch his muscles atrophy, or whatever you want to call it, where he's completely heat exhausted. I've seen Bryant Mitchell get carted off the field with his kneecap turned around. I mean, I see the things that these guys go through. So to me, I want to see them succeed, if nothing else, for them, because I see the work that these guys put in. This is a good locker room this football team has right now. They've got a lot more guys that want to win football games than they've had in a long time in this locker room. It's a good locker room. There's not any, there's always going to be a few jerks in there, but 90% of these guys, or maybe even higher this year, are here for the right reason. And I love that. And one thing I've said on our podcast and on different podcasts before, my favorite moment in Hard Knocks was when Jameis Winston was talking. I believe it was Peyton Barber, another guy in the training room. And Jameis said, some of you guys play football because you're good at it, right? You're just good. Some of you guys play football because you love it and you're good. That's why I love Jameis Winston. He was good and he loved football. If after a game, if I had 11 guys and said, hey, let's go out and play in the parking lot at Raymond James, Jameis Winston would have been the first guy. So I'm all-time quarterback. I mean, he just loved football. And what I'm saying is, to make a boring story short here and condensed now, is I believe that this football team has a locker room full of guys more so that love the game of football and want to win football games, as opposed to just playing it because they're athletic and good at it. Does that make any sense to you guys?
Yeah,
Makes complete sense.
Can you compare this to any other year where you felt like that, was the same? I mean, I feel like during Lovey's time, it wasn't that way.
No.
During even parts of Dirk's time, it definitely wasn't that way.
No, it wasn't. I would say last year's group was probably where we kind of saw that. And, they rid themselves of a couple bad apples. I'm not a, guy that's going to bash Deshaun Jackson, but he wasn't a good fit in that locker room. 2 years ago, Chris Baker was an awful fit in that locker room. They've just got a bunch of guys in there right now that, number one, I think they're sick and tired of losing, right? And they're energized, man. They're pumped up about having a guy like Tom Brady. As much as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin love Jameis Winston, and they'll be friends till the day they die, there's just something special about having a guy Tom Brady in your locker room. And I think, Jameis even said it in an interview a while back, hey, if I get replaced, at least I got replaced by the greatest of all time. You know what I mean? That's kind of an honor, if you want to look at it that way. So, but no, there's been no, I mean, I haven't been around every 45 or 46, however many years of football they've been playing locker room. But I would say, you'd have to go back to the Super Bowl years, the Dungy years when, and I actually covered the Buccaneers from 95 to 2000, roughly, for Buccaneer Magazine, which turned into Pewter Report. When Scott hired me, I was just an intern guy. They just transcribed quotes, but to me, it was a way to get in the press box and be able to learn something. That was a very eclectic group of guys: a Warren Sapp and a Keyshawn Johnson and a Mike Allstott and a Rondé Barber. You can't find four different personalities, but man, they all had the same goal. And the Derek Brooks and the Simeon Rice. I mean, these were crazy personalities, completely different guys, but they had the same goal. And this year, I believe, is going to be the closest to what we saw during those Dungy heydays and the Super Bowl year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones was JPP, man. Sorry, Stank, I had to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I
was going to say one of the biggest moves I felt this offseason was JPP, and even more so from just his attitude and his approach, and just that, like we say it a lot on the show, the hatred for losing. Like, I don't want the guy that loves to win. I want the guy that absolutely hates fucking losing. JPP is a big deal with that. And having a guy like Tom inject what Tom does, I mean, that's huge, man. I know you guys haven't been in the locker room yet, but when you guys get in there, like, I feel like it's gonna be so much different than what you've seen maybe 5 years ago. Just because Tom, everyone that we've talked to who has been around Tom, like, Tom brings way more than what he does on the field. And
again, I mentioned earlier, Bruce brought a resume to this football team. Tom Brady's resume is on his hands. I mean, on the NFL films, it's in the record books. Donovan Smith is going to be a better left tackle this year than he's ever been before because of Tom Brady. Because he doesn't want to be the guy that Tom Brady gets a busted shoulder or gets an ACL injury because, he's lazy on a couple plays. Tom is going to elevate the play of everybody, not just offensively, but defensively as well. And I think that's huge. It's something that old school Derek Fournier, when he had his podcast, the What the Bug podcast, we used to say all the time, this team needs guys that hate losing more than they like winning. And I think they're there. You brought up JPP. This is a guy that just, despised losing. Jameis Winston hated losing. But there just wasn't enough of those guys the last few years. JPP is an excellent example, and the Buccaneers probably overpaid a little bit for a guy. I don't know that he gets close to that money in the open market, not at his age, not coming off the injury situation. Look, JPP didn't practice a whole lot last year, even when he came back, because he was playing with some ailments and things as well, and they wanted to preserve him as much as possible. I hope he can manage 16 games this year. They're going to have to do a really good job in that training room. Bruce is going to have to do a good job of managing his snap counts and during the game, and Todd will, but also how he practices. And they need to keep him healthy for 16 games. But man, they didn't overpay for that locker room presence. I promise you that, because JPP is deadly serious about winning football games, and mm-hmm. It's something that's been sorely missed around this place for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the level of intensity that a guy like Tom Brady brings to your organization, the perfection he demands in practice should carry over onto the field on Sundays. At least that's what we're hoping. I mean, you don't sustain that kind of success. I don't care who your coaching staff is. And, he's had a mix of players over his career offensively, come in, and he's had success with so many different guys. That's what gets me excited about bringing a guy like Tom in. It's more than just his physical ability. And at this age, his physical ability's definitely trending downwards, but mentally, he's still got it. I mean, if you see his interviews, you hear him talk. I mean, this guy is obsessed with winning. He's obsessed with being great. He's obsessed, with going down in history as not just the greatest quarterback ever, maybe one of the greatest athletes to ever compete in team sports, period. And He doesn't even need success here to be that for a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to what that infuses into the younger guys, like a Devin White, who has that same enthusiasm and love for football that Jameis has. You can see it. He's like a big kid out there. He loves his teammates. He loves football. He loves the locker room, play for free. But having somebody like Tom teach these guys what winning is about and what it takes to, surpass that margin that we just can't seem to get over. Because like you said, Mark, we were successful on offense last year. You look at us statistically, we're in the top 5 offensively in most categories, other than maybe rushing. So it wasn't that we couldn't move the ball and score points. Turnovers obviously played a big part in some of the games, but it wasn't just the turnovers or the untimely turnovers. It was the defense making an untimely mistake. It was a holding penalty on a big Ronald Jones run. It was
Matt Gay missing 3 kicks in the final game.
It was Bruce Arians backing his kicker up, fucking with his head.
Yeah. Hold on. Right. Mark, clear. Now listen, we've already debunked we've already explained why he missed those 3 kicks. All right.
Yeah.
He did it on purpose. He told us. He told us that he was orchestrating the entire Tom Brady signing. From that day, he said, you know what?
That's what I heard.
I need Tom Brady so I can become a Hall of Fame kicker. Like all of his kickers, I need Tom. So he said, you know what? I'm going to fucking miss all these kicks.
Right.
I'm just going to make sure Jameis is gone. Tom Brady's here now. We've got a Hall of Fame quarterback. We've got a Hall of Fame kicker. Like
Mark, he's kicking over mountains, bro. He was kicking over mountains.
You
see that bridge behind you? Matt Gay can kick over that.
I was kind of a dick when he posted that video. I was kind of a dick when he posted that video of him kicking over mountains. I'm like, well, maybe that we could put a screenshot of that behind that south end zone where you can't seem to make any kicks, Matt.
They could do that.
That was probably kind of a jerk.
The Glazers could print those cards up, and the fans could hold them up in the end zone.
They should do that.
Easy.
Listen, I have a wrap company. I'll just wrap that entire. I'll just wrap like a
whole end zone
banner. Yeah, the whole end zone, the banners, all of it. We'll just drop that once he's kicking the south end zone.
The mountains of Utah in the background.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, let him feel at home. I'm just, I know I kind of snapped at you there a little bit, but there will be no fucking Matt Gay slander on this show.
No slander.
You know what? I think Mark's looking a little dry. I think that you should send him a complimentary bottle of Matt Gay baby oil. Hold it up for the camera so he can.
There is no Matt Gay baby oil.
Excuse me, the Stephen Beck baby oil. Stephen Beck baby oil, which was inspired by Matt Gay's greatness.
Is there really?
Beck's baby
oil. See that again? Let me stop talking. Stink, so his picture will pop up big.
Yeah, you know Stephen Beck.
Talk.
That's the Beck's baby oil, man. I don't know if you know who Stephen Beck is.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's basically our dad on this show.
I will take a bottle of that. Do I have to rub it? Do I have to rub Matt Gay down with it? That's what I want to know.
No. Stank does that every pregame. You don't need to.
I thought that was
never touch Matt Gay. No. Okay. Don't ever put your hands near Matt Gay.
Absolutely I first got the job of rubbing down. First got the job of rubbing Noah Spence down, and I've kind of parlayed that into specific players that need real deep treatments.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've only
Mark. You would have noticed it. You would have noticed it
one time. That wasn't
Noah Spence was always glistening in training camp. If you noticed, and that was the handiwork of Stank right there.
And you see what happened to him without me. ACL tears.
Well, Cam Brady glistens after showers. I'm not gonna lie about that. But bad news for you, Stank. He just got engaged this week to Brooks, so he's off the market, man, and he's probably not going to let you.
I'm not the jealous type. Okay, I was a little bit jealous of his relationship with his dog, but the wife, not so much.
Yeah, Stank's pretty happy being in the shadows. He's really, really comfortable being the side chick.
Like, literally in the shadows.
Yeah, look at this.
Much, yeah.
Just way back here.
Yeah, he's back there with the baby oil and everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Big deal. We've talked about Jameis a little bit here, but we haven't asked you the question of what do you think of his 1 year, what was it, like $500 and a bag of chips signing with the Saints? What do you think of that whole thing?
I think it's a brilliant move. I think Jameis Winston is the quarterback of the future in New Orleans. And I know people talk about Taysom Hill, and listen to me, Jameis Winston is a better quarterback than Taysom Hill. And if Sean Payton has any sense, which he does because he's an excellent head coach, I think Jameis Winston is the guy that takes over for Drew Brees. I really do. Now, it may be Hill initially. I don't know that Hill can sustain. I mean, the guy has not proven anything other than he's a jack of all trades. He's mastered nothing yet in the NFL. If Sean Payton can get a hold of Jameis Winston and cut that 30 to 15, look, if Jameis Winston's interceptions were 15 last year, he's second to Lamar Jackson in MVP voting, and he's getting some first-place votes. He's getting some first-place votes. Now, you can't take away 30. 30 were 30. Might have been 40 if defenders would have caught more of them. But make no mistake, the guy had, if you take away some of those interceptions, had an MVP-type season. Sean Payton is no dummy. He absolutely sees that, and he would love nothing more than to stick it to the Buccaneers. Sean is a competitive dude, man. He does not like the Falcons. He doesn't like the Bucs. Doesn't like the Panthers. Doesn't like Dirk Cutter. Tried to fight him at midfield one game. He got his leg broken one game. Remember that a few years ago on the sideline? He doesn't like the Buccaneers. That's part of the reason that Jameis Winston's there, but he's also smart enough to realize that, he thinks he can help this guy turn it around. We're going to go back to what you're saying about Tom Brady being the competitive guy. And I'll say this, and this will be controversial. Jameis Winston is absolutely as competitive as Tom Brady. Problem is, Jameis Winston isn't as good as Tom Brady. And he hasn't proven anything the way Tom Brady hasn't. So when you talk about elevating the team, Tom Brady, and we talked about it with Bruce, again, the resume. People are going to naturally – Jameis could do all of the same things Tom Brady did, but they're not going to follow him the way they're going to follow Tom Brady because Tom Brady has the resume. Until Jameis can get something on his resume, he can work as hard or harder than Tom Brady. But, you got to have that resume for the guys to follow you. At some point, your leadership is hollow, right? If you keep saying the same thing over and over, if you keep challenging your guys to play at a championship level and you're throwing 4 interceptions a game, eventually these guys are going to stop following. And I don't want to say they'll stop following, but the message gets lost. This message won't be lost with Tom Brady. He's established a 20-year message that these guys are going to fall under. But I truly believe Jameis Winston is the future in New Orleans. I think him and Sean Payton are brilliant. I think Jameis playing in a dome. I think Jameis being close to his family in Alabama. I mean, all of the things to me, point towards Jameis Winston being the future in New Orleans one day. And you know, all he's got to do is figure out how not to give the ball away. If he does that, he'll be one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
I think the biggest factor for him. Sorry, Stink again. The biggest factor for him is that when he played in Tampa, you got the sense that when he was at home, he was really pressing to like win over the people that were not Jameis fans, because either they were Gator fans or, you know, they were fans of the Hurricanes, or they just weren't a fan of all the stuff that happened to him at Florida State off the field. All of those things. I felt like he was just pressing so much harder than he needed to that it cost him some of these mistakes. And some of them, they were just bonehead mistakes too. Yeah. Not to take away from them. They were 30 interceptions. Like you said, they could have been 40. But I think when he goes to New Orleans or maybe anywhere else, he's getting a completely fresh start. If anything, you know, positive happens career-wise for him, it's basically, you know, a surprise. It's unprecedented. It's unexpected. It's something that, okay, cool, it happened. And I feel like maybe playing in a system that's not so high risk, high reward like he has his entire career outside of maybe the first year with Lovey, I think it helps him. I think that helps him kind of neuter some of that Brett Favre, you know, gunslinger that, you know, Aaron Rodgers is a gunslinger, but Aaron Rodgers throws it away more than anyone else in the league. He knows when to be that guy.
And he'll crumble in the pocket and fold like a cheap tent when he gets under pressure because he knows it's okay. You know, we're going to punt the ball. The defense is going to be – I'm going to get another shot at this.
That's because Aaron's got to save himself, you know, 2 years from now when he's the next Bucs quarterback after Brady.
And I would be okay with that too. I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. I know most people don't like him, but I love the guy. I love watching Aaron Rodgers play football.
I know what you said about Jameis's competitiveness. You being an insider, you being on the sidelines, being in the locker room, being around Jameis like you were, you know, maybe we didn't see it as much, you know, except for maybe certain moments. But did Jameis have the respect, the demand for perfection? Was he undressing guys in practice or in the locker room for not doing their jobs correctly?
He should have more. I wish he would have more. Jameis wanted to be liked maybe a little too much. Again, this is my opinion. I never asked him about it. Jameis didn't want to be that a-hole. I wish he would have been more of that. But again, he also understood that if he jumps all over Donovan Smith's ass because he gave up a sack and then Jameis throws an interception the next play, you know what I mean? You gotta prove it. You know, he was able to do that at Florida State because he won that national championship the first year in the Heisman. So immediately, you know, he could do no wrong the second year in that locker room. He was the boss. He was the alpha male. It's hard to translate that when you're a 21, 22-year-old kid coming into a locker room of 27, 28-year-old guys. And then when you know, don't play up to expectations, then again, you know, I wish he would have been a little bit more demonstrative and a little bit more on these guys and called these guys out a little bit more. But it just, you know, he didn't do it. I don't know that it would have made a difference. But you know, he didn't do it as much as I would have liked to have seen him do, but no one asked me either.
Yeah. I mean, me and Sammer were both, in the Jameis camp. We wanted to bring him back. We didn't think Brady would become available. We thought a lot of it was negotiation tactics, and they were saying what they were saying about him because they wanted to bring him back.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
You know, I thought when the season ended, I said, there's no way, no how this team doesn't bring this guy back. It wasn't a week into the offseason when talking to some of the people that we talked to that I said to Scott, it's 50-50 that Jameis is back. I mean, it wasn't a contract ploy. I thought, you know, even then I thought to myself, well, you know, some of this talk from Bruce, you know, it's the devalue him or drive his price down a little bit. They were deadly serious about upgrading if there was an upgrade available. Would they have lived with Jameis Winston and been okay with Jameis Winston coming back? Absolutely, if Brady wouldn't have been available. I don't buy the Bridgewater was number two. I really don't. I know that I think Bruce said that or somebody said that. I think it was Tom or Jameis is the way it was going to be. But I was immediately right after the season when I started making my contact phone calls and texts and things that I remember telling Scott, dude, I'll tell you where I was. I was at the East-West Shrine practice at Tropicana Field, and I told Scott, I goes, this is not a foregone conclusion that Winston is back. And he had been having some of the same conversations. He goes, I think you're right. I was one of those guys that at the end of the season said, of course Jameis is coming back. I mean, how do you not give a guy that throws for over 5,000 yards a second year in this offense? Carson Palmer, had his worst interception total in his first year under Bruce. After that, he never threw more than 12. So there was a precedent there for high interceptions with Bruce Arians in your first year. But I think the Buccaneers were thinking, if by chance we could get Tom Brady, or we found a guy that we felt was an upgrade, we were going to do it, because Bruce isn't going to be here forever. I mean, he's going to be here 2 years, 3 years, maybe. So it's a win now. And if, but I believe it was Tom Brady or bust. It was Tom Brady or Winston, in my opinion.
It's still a huge gamble to make the decision they made. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
You know better than most. You've been here since the beginning.
I watched them let Doug Williams walk away. I let him Steve Young walk away.
Right.
Trent Dilfer, for that matter. 3 guys this team said, see you later. Drafted quarterbacks. Well, not Steve Young wasn't drafted. I mean, he was in the supplemental draft, the USFL or whatever it was. But, I mean, the fact that this team has not given a drafted quarterback a second contract in the history of the franchise is probably the most mind-boggling sports stat that I can come up with off the top of my head.
It's got to be.
And I thought for sure Jameis was going to be the guy. And I'm with you though. I thought it was going to be he was definitely going to be back, but it's win now. And I didn't. You asked me earlier about Tom Brady. I thought initially I thought that would be an awful idea. I thought to myself, Tom Brady wouldn't play 16 games behind this offensive line and survive. And Tom Brady doesn't have the arm and all those things, but I'm all aboard now. I mean, they're not going to ask Tom Brady to throw the ball 60 yards down the field 20 or 30 times a game. They're just not. And Bruce is not. Bruce is a smart enough guy to know that we're going to take the best of what Tom Brady does, and that's going to be the game plan. You don't stick a round peg into a square hole or a square peg into a round hole, whatever that stupid saying is. They're going to do what Tom Brady does best, and they're going to build their game plan around that. Same thing with bringing Gronkowski in. People say, why would you bring Rob in here? Because Bruce doesn't use tight ends. He doesn't utilize them. Bruce is not going to have Rob Gronkowski and O.J. Howard and Tom Brady on this football team and not use his tight ends. That's just foolish.
When you've got a guy with like Scotty Miller with such untapped potential, who's clearly going to be wide receiver 1 in this offense, because that's just the way it is with Tom Brady. Okay, you already know that Scotty's at Tom's house right now. They're probably going to fly out to North Dakota together and shoot some deer.
Right.
And hang out and cook steaks and laugh it up. Scotty Miller's going to be wide receiver 1. How do you think the rest of the receivers, Evans and Chris Godwin, whatever the guy is,
it's going to be tough to
handle it?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them that, Scotty Miller, let's not forget, this team brought back Spencer Schnell in the last game of the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another guy, quite possibly he's wide receiver 2 when the season starts. And then it's a battle to who's going to be that third receiver,
right.
Godwin. Is it going to be Mike Evans? Is it going to be the kid out of Minnesota they drafted? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, those are your 2 guys.
See, Samurai, I see you shaking your head. Mark works. He's a professional, and he agrees with me. Okay.
Listen, I don't care. Anytime a guy catches a pass and immediately grabs his hamstrings, I don't want him on my team.
This team there's something in the water.
Hamstrings.
Yeah. I mean, if you go back to the Mike Williams a few years ago, I mean, ripped off his bone. I mean, this team has had more than its fair share of hamstring injuries. And I think a lot has to do – Rick Stroud's brought this up a lot. The heat. It's the heat and how you utilize these guys in the heat during training camp and things like that is wear and tear on the body. Guys who have low body fat – I'll go back to my high school coaching days. We had the greatest running back in Florida State High School Athletic Association history, and I say that because he still holds the playoff record for most rushing yards when we beat Venice, Chad Scott. He was a guy that lasted usually half the game because by the third quarter, his hamstrings were tightening up. He was cramping up. His body fat percentage was under 5%. This Florida heat and humidity just wreaks havoc on soft tissue. And when a guy doesn't have any padding, any fat, anything around it, I mean, he's more susceptible to it. You look at the guys, the Scotty Miller, the Mike Evans, the Chris Godwins, the Mike Williams that have had the hamstring injuries. You don't see Donovan Smith with a hamstring injury. You don't see Bo Allen with a hamstring injury. You don't see Vita Vea, with a hamstring injury. I mean, they've all had some hamstring issues. But bottom line is, the fat guys don't have to worry about it nearly as much as the skinny guys do. Therefore, Stank and I will never ever have a hamstring injury.
I don't even have hamstrings. I'm all calves.
Yeah, the fat has completely covered them up to the point where my leg just goes right down in my shoe. I mean, it just goes by into my
just a tree trunk.
Just my dad. What are the dad's shoes? Yeah, New Balances. Yeah, my thighs go right in my New Balances when I'm grilling, wearing my white half sock.
So, like I said earlier, we asked the tough question. So, at what age are dads supposed to start wearing? Like, at what age does a New Balance shoe become appealing to me?
It's different for everybody. I remember when my dad just said, screw it, I'm jumping off the fashion train, right? He turned into the guy that pulled his jeans up a little bit higher. He's the guy that, just said, you know what? I don't care if my shirt matches my pants. Shoes, give me the Velcros. I don't even want to have to tie them anymore. I don't know yet. I'll be honest with you. I don't own any New Balances. However,
I do. Actually,
they're waiting.
Megan does.
Megan, what's up, Megan?
Yeah, she's known on Twitter. She's a little bit of a what do you call those people? Multiple personalities. But anyway, she's one of those.
All women have multiple personalities.
So you're telling me I should be scared because right now I can't remember the last time I put on shoes. Everywhere I go, I'm wearing slides. So I'm starting to think.
When you get my age,
the next step.
Well, the problem with that though is when you get my age, you get like weird shit that happens to your toenails and stuff. So like either they grow real long and start curling, they turn yellow for no reason. You get blood. It's just the old man foot problem. Maybe it's the diabetes in me. I'm not sure. So I was a flip flop guy. So now to not make small children scream and women run in the grocery store, I will put on closed toe shoes. They're going to be my checkerboard Vans 9 times out of 10, though.
I mean, if you look at Sammer, this is a guy, pedicure, manicure, all that. What, a couple days a week? He has people that tend to all of his, yeah.
I mean, that's the most perfect beard I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I thank you.
It doesn't even look real. I think
it's airbrushed.
It's not. It's not airbrushed.
Stan, do you remember those things we had when we were kids when we were going on long trips because we didn't have iPads and stuff, but it was this face, and you had a magnet with these.
The magnet face.
And you used to make the beards. Some of the guys. That's what I.
Magnet face beard.
Yes, that's what he had. He has the magnet.
I like that. Beard. That's a cool name. I mean,
that needs to be your next time you come on this podcast. That needs to be your background. The magnet face.
I'm just gonna. It's gonna be on the lower thirds from now on. This magnet face beard guy.
I have a feeling he man grooms his chest too, doesn't he? I'm afraid to ask because he'll probably lift his shirt, but
he's hairless. Completely.
It's pretty much hairless.
Wow.
It's,
good.
It's right after my crude oil bath every Monday morning. They basically take care of the hair on the front and pretty smooth.
No, I'm just
people that
I'll be honest with you. If I don't shave here, it just all connects, right? It just connects and it goes all the way down to my toes. Literally, I have some that have started sprouting out here. I've got some on my ears. Like, I think in 10 years, I may be able to work at the circus as like JoJo the dog because I'm just going to be one big or somebody's going to throw a net over me if I'm ever in the Everglades and think that they've captured Bigfoot.
It's
I
funny,
don't take my shirt off.
I don't see a whole lot of grays, though. I mean, your ginger is strong. I see it in the beard.
In the beard. But gingers, you will see 80-year-old gingers because for whatever reason, gingers normally don't get a lot of gray in the hair. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's God saying, you know what? I screwed you early as a ginger where you got beat up as a kid, so we're going to protect you as an old man. Maybe. I don't know. Because I say that, but he's not really caring that much because I literally, every day, there's new places on my body where hair shouldn't grow that it does. You lose it here, but it starts growing out of the back of your shirt here. So
I've got all that. Yep, I've got all that.
This will all connect for me if I let it go, but
that's what I'm saying. I'm connected from the eyebrows down to the toes.
I've gotten the thing where like if I let it go long enough, I could probably
it wraps around to the back. Yes.
Yeah, I've got I could do a helmet face hair thing going on. It's kind of weird.
I'm with you.
This was fun hanging out, man. I don't know if
people probably took out a long time ago because we haven't talked about football, but this is the kind of shows that I like to do. This
is our show, man.
There's plenty of seriousness out there in the world right now, and and just not to get into all the politics of things like that, man. I'm just I'm really praying for everybody to stay safe, and healthy out there in the world, whether it be the COVID, whether it's the turmoil going on in our country right now. We're better than we've shown. And I'm praying for everybody. I'm praying for the people out there, the journalists that have to cover these situations, for the people who are out there, having the protest and trying to raise awareness. I pray for them. Pray for the guys that are out there trying to protect them, with the law and order to keep things as safe as possible. I'll say this though, and I tell my son this all the time: as bad as the world looks, I just want to remember. I want to remind him all the time: there's still more good people than there are bad people in this world.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
There's still a lot more. We might not see it all the time, but don't give up on on civilization. Don't give up on humanity. There's a lot of good things in this world. It doesn't seem that way right now, but we'll get through this, and hopefully, as a nation, we'll have learned a lot. And I love the dialogue that's going on. There are people older than me that 10 years ago, this type of dialogue, and it's unfortunate that a tragedy had to happen to make the dialogue come about. But I love what I'm seeing. I love the spirit of unity that we're seeing more and more when we talk about the relationships with the different races and things like that. So anyway, don't want to get political on your show. Love everybody out there, and hope that they stay safe and their voices are heard, and we can solve some problems in this world, because it's a good place to be.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we talked about it last week on that episode, that sports and like being part of sports kind of eliminates or blinds you or erases race in general. And we spoke before the show that your kid, your son played football. So right. I feel like, being a father of a child who got to be in that type of a sports scenario and that type of a locker room where it's a lot of different creeds and nationalities and right. everyone's kind of just working towards one goal. Right. I feel like that's a blessing for you as a parent, in that, you might not have all the answers. You're not going to be able to show right. him everything, but when he's in that type of, environment, he now has other perspectives. He has things that you can't teach.
More so than I had, a lot more than my father had. And a lot more than his father had. Look, it's not fair. It's not fair what's happened in this country and how long it's taken for racism to change. And it's scary. We see it. I don't think there's more of it. I just think it's more widely available through social media. I think it's which is a great thing, because these things are brought to the forefront that were covered up for years. But bottom line is, it's not fair that it's taken this long. It'll get better. Each generation, my son's generation is better than my generation. My generation is better than my father's generation. His generation is better than his father's. Now, that's not, to a black person, they don't give a shit that it's taken 3 generations, 4 generations. It's not right that it's taken that long. But there is hope. It gives me hope, is what I'm saying. When I see my son, when I see his generation, when I see, and he and I talk about these things, it gives me hope that one day, at some point, this world will stop looking at color and just look at the person seated next to you, no matter what their color or nationality or any of that stuff is. Because, I'm a Baptist, man. End of the day, Jesus doesn't give a crap what color you are. The Bible says we're made in his image, right? Every single one of us is made in his image. If you're black, you were made in Jesus' image. If I'm white, I'm made in Jesus' image. If I'm Indian, I was made in Jesus' image. And anyway, now I've gotten religious and political. Now I'm really going to piss everybody off, so I'll shut up now.
What else can we talk about?
We haven't even talked about sex yet. Let's talk about that.
Sexual orientation.
How are the gays doing? How are the gays doing? Okay.
With that being said, thanks for hanging out, Mark. This was fun.
I was going to give
that, of course. The gay.
You guys covered it. I was going to give my 2 cents, but
give it.
I love to hear dialogue. I can't disagree. I will emphasize what you said. I believe inherently that most people are good. It's the world is under a microscope right now, man. And you look up close, you're going to see some shit, man. And it's ugly in a lot of ways, but I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. That something like this can turn into a positive and we can see some change.
And that's something I tell my son, I used to tell him every day when he would leave in the morning to go to school is I would tell him, I said, just do one nice thing today. Just one. Just try and do one nice thing, whether it's hold the door open for somebody, whether it's buying somebody their lunch if they don't have any money. If everybody, and I'm guilty of not doing it, but if everybody, just one thing a day, tried to do something good for somebody else, this world would be a much better place. Maybe through this tragedy that we're seeing those things maybe come to fruition. I hope so. The key is not letting it fall back like we've done with situations like this in the past where everybody feel that they're united and behind a certain cause, and then, 6 months later, 3 months later, a week later, we've forgotten about it. When we see what's going on, not just here in this country, but when you see other countries, calling out what happened and rallying for peace, whether it's in Berlin, Germany, or whether it's in Australia, whether it's in the United Kingdom, this is different. I believe this is different, and I believe that this is going to make a lasting change. It's not going to solve all the world's problems by any stretch, or this country's problems, but I believe it's making a change.
Yeah, I was saying to my friend, my business partner the other day, I was like, we've been through some stuff like this before, but this one feels different in the sense that like we're going to be part of history. This is going to be something that a generation is going to learn about. And, we're part of history. It's a big deal and it feels different. And, it just, I think finally now, like you said, something is going to change. Right. Maybe the dialogue will now finally occur, and people who weren't, given the opportunity to see a different perspective and understand are finally now going to sit and listen instead of just talk.
Isn't that the key though to whatever? And you guys are in relationships, you got kids, I just truly believe, and I tell people all the time that, people ask me, what's the key to a long relationship, whatever it be, whether it's romantic or whatever. I just think it's communication as much as anything, right? Don't let walls build up. If we have dialogue and we can talk about things, and everybody express their feelings, then we can get over whatever the issue is a little bit faster. I hope things are. Let's just go a little bit longer. I want to say that going to Colin Kaepernick, when the Buccaneers played the 49ers and beat the 49ers a few years ago at San Francisco. Just to give people a little bit of background, and most people may know this, is each week we get a conference call with one of the players and the head coach, the media does. And that year it was Jim Harbaugh and Colin Kaepernick. And this was, in the...
No! I really wanted to hear this story.
We lost him for a little bit.
We did.
We might have to end it without him, man.
Might have to. Hopefully he comes back on, because I definitely wanted to hear the Kaepernick story. Or we might have to leave that as a cliffhanger, like in the old 80s and 70s shows, where the show would end with, who knew? Tune in next week to find out.
I don't remember watching TV in the 80s, so can't really help you there. But
you were alive in the 80s, bitch. I know you had television.
I was born in 84, bro. I mean, it's different.
Okay, but, so when you were, in 89, you were 5, you were watching television. Anyways.
Well, whatever, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, Mark. It was, dude, I thought that was really cool. I thought it was fun. I had fun hanging out with him. I know you did. You're always starstruck. I'm not, but
I am.
I always appreciate the guests that we get. And Mark is, I mean, if you don't know who Mark Cook is as a Bucs fan, you're not a Bucs fan. So
we've checked off my bucket list of Bucs media members. I could give a shit about any of the rest of them, to be honest with you.
This is definitely cool. I thank everybody who – I want to thank everybody who's watching and subscribing and sharing and liking everything, and leave your comments, and they can be good or bad. You can talk about anything. But thanks again for tuning in, and look forward to another episode next week.
Peace out.